Hello, my name is Joanne Huynh, and this is my presentation for the Civil and Human Rights Conference Shareback from Detroit USW Conference, June 9th through 12th. I would like to start off the presentation with a huge thank you for allowing me the opportunity to attend this conference, to network, to meet, and to learn such important information alongside such like-minded folks. And the fact that I just recently completed my doctorate of social justice education at USW, working with marginalized and racialized youth, I think this is such a relevant and timely topic. The entirety of the conference was so well planned and executed, from the opening ceremonies where each member was able to share their stories, their connections to the unions, and the impacts of the union as a whole. What I personally loved was the anecdotal pieces where speakers talked about their father and the impact on the union, their own personalized journey, as well as some folks even pointing into the audience where their children were as well. Specifically, I really enjoyed Roxanne Brown, who talked about the 2021 reduction of child poverty by 50%. Even though it focused on U.S. politics, I found that the numbers were very important to highlight the impact of both the government, but also how the unions are really pushing for so much great work. Monday's workshop focused on anti-Asian hate as well as replacement theory. Both the workshops were so well facilitated and executed by the panel members and the workshop facilitators, where they shared and communicated their points effectively. One of the key pieces I found that was a theme during the Q&A session was when audiences asked about the fear of retaliation if they were to speak up, or what would potentially happen, and the answers by the audience really helped to build a sense of camaraderie, really build a sense of brotherhood and sisterhood, which I found was very helpful when folks were able to share their own pieces. And one thing I personally shared was about my parents and them being both people from Vietnam, and what that meant and how that journey for them back in the 70s was like. And an additional piece between the two workshops was talking a lot about what the word racism actually meant, because it was thrown out quite a bit, and it was broken down in terms of, we really want to understand the main differences between not just using that word, but understanding the compounded piece where there is stereotypes and prejudice and discrimination, and when all of that stuff is acted upon, that in itself formulates what racism is. And I found the fact that that came out of the discussions and the Q&A from the hate replacement theory to be very insightful. The video that was shown at the beginning, I found also helped set the tone for the workshop, and just in general understanding for folks that might not be as familiar as other folks. And I found that it really helped drive in sense of understanding for likewise everyone in the room, and where its roots of white supremacy is set in. So overall, amazing workshop. But I found that the discussions from the group was actually what really drove it, those really rich conversations. As the conference progressed, I became more interested in actually being involved in learning more about the union, so founding principles and civil and human rights committees and how they work and what they do was at the core of understanding more about the union, what ultimately formed them. And one of the biggest takeaways is the sense that it's not the intent of what was said or what is, but it's basically the impact. It's the impact of the union as a whole. And this goes very well into the civil and human rights committees. We talked about what they are and its impact and importance to the union, discussed about how the committee should look like, being reflective of the workforce, and how the committee helps to determine what is right, what is wrong, recommendations for notes, recommendations for written records, The other workshops I attended were about gender bias and being a young person of color in the union. Both of these I have a personal interest in, both being female and of Asian descent. And it was very neat hearing from the facilitators about their own lived experiences and the challenges that they went through and the gender biases that older folks might have had about their competencies and how they managed to overcome it. And hearing that sense of resiliency and how, I guess, times have changed has really helped. But now they are being champions both from a gender equity view, but also understanding on the flip side what young means. And the neat thing that I personally really love is they shared that being between 30 to 50 is young in the labor movement. And in both cases, both gender and stereotypes about young folks and what that means and the involvement as a whole. Above all, both workshops really echoed the need for diversity in both on the ground and within the leadership as well. And it means that as a labor union, the actions that we want can actually help to implement the change, and it can help young people that can also help the young people in the lives of us and set the example for what we want. But above all, I made a note that I really loved the personal testimonials and lived experiences that were shared by all of them. Specifically, a few talked about the mentorship, the guidance, and the passion. And finally, I want to end off this presentation with a heartfelt thank you, both for watching this presentation, but also allowing me the opportunity to attend, to meet, and to learn from like-minded individuals who share that same passion, that same drive, and also that same care. And I found that it was so impactful for me to understand and meet folks within USW, not necessarily from education. I met folks from TELUS. I met many folks from the US that worked within factories, call centers, telephone pole technicians, so many like factory workers, just a host of different folks with so much care and passion that I am very excited for the next steps and just additional opportunities to stay involved with the union. So with that, a heartfelt thank you.